Well, hey y'all, welcome back to Life with Nana. I'm Nana, and I'm so glad you're here today. Today is preparations for my birthday. Now, when you see this, it's going to be my birthday, but I'm filming this a few weeks ahead of time. I like to keep ahead of my schedule, you know. So, but we're going to have what my mama would have fixed for me on my birthday. It was the meal that I asked for every single birthday. And my mother just called it cube steak and mashed potatoes and peas and these rolls that I can't seem to find anymore. They were pull apart rolls. They were already cooked and you just browned them and they had little lines in the top and you just pulled them apart. Well, I can't seem to find those around here anymore. So we're going to make our own. So let me tell you what I've already got done this morning. So I have in my bread machine my bread dough going and rising. We're going to make the rolls homemade today. I also have my potatoes already cut up and in a pan back there in some cold water. And I'm using I'm using this cookbook for it's the Philadelphia Cream Cheese Classic Recipes, and I'm using one of their recipes, and it's called a Brownie Bottom Cheesecake. So the first thing that this recipe calls for is a 10-ounce box, a 10 to a 20-ounce box of brownie mix. I didn't have that on hand, and I'm not going to go to the store. So I have a recipe here that creates the the dry ingredients to the brownie mix, and then I just wrote on the front of it what the wet ingredients are, and you just mix this together. And I went ahead and made up four of those because I'm not sure how many it's going to take to do this. I'm going to weigh this out in a minute, and we'll see how much one of those packs weighs. So we're using a 10-inch springform pan because I don't have a 9-inch one, and that's what the recipe calls for. I don't think that's going to make that big of a difference, but we'll see. Now, my mother would have fixed me just a plain chocolate cake with plain chocolate frosting on it, uh, probably out of a box. And I was the youngest of four children, and by the time I came along, the convenience foods were much more readily available. And it was just simpler and easier on her. And I loved it, and it was wonderful. And that was one thing that she always did was make sure that whatever it was that we wanted for our birthday dinner, it within reason, she would make sure that she could get that done for us. Now, she would most of the time cook it, herself because that was we didn't have the money to go out and eat a lot of times. So anyway, which was fine with me. I would rather have her cooking any day over any restaurant that I've ever been to. So the brownie mix recipe will be in the show notes, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to put this together. I've already got my pan prepared over here. I've got my oven preheated. We've got the bread in the bread dough. We've got the potatoes already cut up and ready to go. And I have my cube steak thawing out over here. So I think I have everything pretty well ready to go. Now, some people will call this chicken fried steak, but my mother always just called it cube steak. Most of the time, back in the day, she would go to our local grocery store and buy a round steak, and she would have them run it through the tenderizer, and that's what we had. So, and it was always delicious. My mother was a great cook, and uh, I take a lot of inspiration from her cooking, and uh, so I hope you enjoy it today. Coming along with me, preparing a birthday dinner. All right, so one of these bags was 11 ounces. My recipe calls for 10 to 20 ounce uh, package of brownie mix, but we're going to use this, and I think one will be sufficient. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up the brownie mix part of this, to the dry ingredients first. So I have my 1 cup of sugar, half a cup of flour. That's just plain all-purpose flour. A half a, I'm sorry, 1/3 cup of cocoa powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. So we're going to put all that in the bowl. And we're just going to mix this together. Now, if I were going to be making this from one of those bags, then I would just pour that bag into the big bowl and I would put my wet ingredients in there. All right. I'm going to do that. I'm going to give this a stir to get it all mixed up really well. The other part of the recipe calls for 1/2 cup of oil. I broke my little glass measuring see-through glass one, so we're going to use this one. So 1/2 cup of oil. 2 eggs. And a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now, I really do like vanilla bean paste. This is a Watkins brand that I'm using today. And I like to measure with my heart when it comes to vanilla. So that's probably going to be quite a bit more than the recipe called for. Probably double what the recipe called for. But that's okay. So I'm going to mix the wet ingredients really well. Because once you get it into this, you don't want to over mix it. All right, so we're going to pour the wet ingredients with the dry. I also started with a clean dishwasher this morning. Thank you to Papa. So I have my prepared springform pan, and inside I cut a piece of parchment paper and put on the bottom so that when I take this out, I'm really hopeful that it'll come off of there really well. And so that's what we're going to do. Now I'm going to get this in the bottom of my pan here. And it doesn't look like a lot. I can tell that right now. But we're going to go with it. I usually cook this in an 8x8 pan, but this is going to be the crust part of our cheesecake. So probably don't want it as thick as a brownie would be. We're just going to spread this around. Our pan. Whoops. Until it's up to the edge of the parchment paper. Now the recipe says to cook it for 20 minutes at 350. I'm not going to cook this one as long because this is not going to be as thick as if I were cooking this in an 8x8 pan. Now we're going to put this in, as I said, a 350 oven. Okay, so we have our the brownie crust. It's done, and I set it on the back porch because it's a little cool here in North Alabama today. And now we're going to get started on the filling. I think by the time we get the filling done, that the crust will be cool enough for us to start putting this together. So, oh, and I wanted to tell you, I had 3 extra brownie mixes that I had to put on my pantry shelf. While I was making this one, I just went ahead and I made up 4 total because I didn't know if I was going to do 1 or 2 for this brownie bottom, and it turned out really well, I think. But I wound up with having 3 to put on my pantry shelf, which makes me just so happy because now, if we want brownies, we can just grab one of those and put the wet ingredients with it and put it in the oven, and we'll have brownies in no time at all. So that's a win. I love that. I love that when we can get that done. So we have 3 bricks of cream cheese, softened in room temperature. I have 3/4 of a cup of sugar. We have a vanilla. We wanted, let's see, it called for a 1/2 cup of sour cream, whatever brand you prefer, and 3 eggs. So we're going to get that into our KitchenAid. And it says to mix the cream cheese, the sugar, and the vanilla first on medium speed until well blended. So we're going to do that first. Try to clean up as we go. I always like to clean up as I go if I can. So the sugar and the vanilla. So I'm going to put the sugar in. And it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. We're just going to measure with our heart. I don't think you can go wrong with a little more vanilla. Now I'm going to turn this on and let it slowly get to going. And then we're going to turn it up on medium and let it go until it's well blended. Okay. That may be a little loud, I'm sorry. Okay, I do need to scrape the sides down. So now we're going to add our sour cream and then our eggs on low speed until well blended. And then we're going to pour it over the crust that's cooling, that we've got cooling. And I did turn my oven down to 350. I'm sorry, to 325. We're going to try to do these one at a time and let them get incorporated. Okay, again, I'm going to scrape down the sides. So everything gets really incorporated well. Okay. And I'm gonna give this a stir just to get sure, just to make sure everything is well incorporated. Looks like it is. I turn my kettle on, and I have 3 pieces of aluminum foil that my springform pan is going to sit down into. And then we'll pour this on the top of the brownie mix, and we'll get it put back in the oven, and we're going to pour water around the edges. All right, so we're going to bake this in a 325-degree oven for about an hour. And I think it's going to turn out wonderful. And then we're going to need to refrigerate this for 4 hours. I'll show you how the brownie bottom turned out. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so we're just going to sit this down in here. We just want to make sure that no water can get up in there. So we got 3 layers. That's what it said to do. Try to get this where you can see. We got every bit of that goodness out of there. My hands are clean. I just washed them. I'm just going to spread that around. Okay, so I have this nice, thick roasting pan. All right. We're just going to pour some hot water about to where the contents of the cheesecake is right now. Go gently. Okay, so our dough is ready in the bread machine, and I'm just going to put some flour out on my mat here. I love that bread machine. Have I told y'all that before? I think I have. All right. So I have my floured surface here. I'm going to put just a little bit of this up here. We don't need a lot of it. And our dough is ready. It looks wonderful. Now this does have some whole grain flour in it. I had some left over from the other day when I was making bread. When I made those hoagie rolls. I'm trying to learn how to use my grain mill and not make more than I need. So, I am trying to recreate those rolls that my mom would buy at the grocery store. And I'm not sure that we'll be able to do that, but we will certainly try. We're going to try to make 12. And what I want to do is try to get this in some sort of a rectangle sort of shape. Now I wanted to get the bread going, or the rolls going, because they're going to have to do a second rise. And as I said, we're just kind of experimenting here. I don't really know how thin to roll them out, so we're just kind of going to go with it. I've got my muffin tin here, and as you can see, it's been well loved. Little piece there. Somewhere along here. Remembering that we are not being fancy, we're just being country cooks here. Okay. We're just kind of going to town. Now these little bitty pieces, I'm going to lay them off to the side. All right, move this over just a little so you can see a little better. And really, I got this idea from another YouTube channel. I can't recall which one it was, but all I'm going to do is take these and fold them like that so that they look like they'll be pulled apart. We're just going to put them down in there. Now we could use these little pieces as another little layer. That'll be a good way to use those up. I was trying to be careful and not go too deep on my mat here. Go over those one more time. And I'm sure there is a correct way of doing this, but you know me, I just go with the flow and let's see what we can do. All right, so we're not going to get 12. I think what I'll do is we will take one out of some of these others because this is going to rise and one more off of this one. We're going to get 12. Look at that. That's going to be beautiful. All right, so that's how they're going to look. I'll bet you when we bake them up, they'll be real wonderful. So I'm just going to put a piece of cheesecloth over these, and I'm going to set them. I'm going to have to clear off a space. Okay, so now we're ready to cook the cube steak, as my mama would call it. And this is done much like if you were going to fry chicken or anything else like that. We're going to dredge it in eggs and milk that has been seasoned. Then we're going to dredge it in flour that has been seasoned, and the meat has been seasoned. First thing I'm going to do is turn my pan on here and get that going, get that hot. And we've got our potatoes cooking, and they're going, and the cheesecake's in the oven, and our rolls are rising. So we are on a roll. Sorry for the pun, but anyway, we are. But anyway, seems like we're going to get this meal pulled together pretty quickly. Now the cheesecake has to refrigerate for at least 4 hours to overnight. So it'll probably be late this evening before that's ready to cut into. But I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. But we're going to get this part of the meal going. So one thing I really like about being in the kitchen and just having a day to, you know, get in here and piddle around and show you something that is nostalgic, and I love that. Well, now I have my cube steak. I don't know what that's called in other parts of the country. That's just what we call it here, or at least that's what my mom called it. And I have seasoned both sides. I have milk and eggs in this mixed together, and it is seasoned with salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder. And then we're going to go right into the flour. And I'm using self-rising just because that's what I had handy. The first piece going in. Now, since I have 4 of these, I'm going to just do 2 at a time in the pan, and that way they won't get crowded. Can't resist looking. Go ahead and get my cheese in the pan back here. And looks like the rolls are rising up really nice. Got the cheesecake cooking in the oven. This is going to be a delicious meal. Happy birthday to me, right? When this comes out, it will be my birthday, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with family. And of course, normally I would not cook my own birthday meal. Normally, Papa would cook something, or we'd go get something, and that's probably what we'll actually do that day. But I wanted to show you what my mom would have done, because this brings back such good memories for me. This is my favorite meal still to this day. I love the mashed potatoes with the peas and the rolls and the meat and the just about any kind of meat. I like that combination. So, but I really do like this. This is really, really, really good. So tell me in the comments, what is your favorite birthday meal? What do you love? What was something that somebody, it might have been your grandmother or your mom or an aunt or just your best friend. Uh, now it might be your spouse. What do you really like? Do you prefer to go out to eat? Do you prefer for somebody to cook for you? Uh, I always cook for our kids until they got big enough to say, "Hey, I really want this," whatever it is kids want. So we're gonna take these out. So I think these are ready. And I'm just gonna put them on some paper towel and let them drain just a little bit, and we'll get these other two in. Okay, so I have my potatoes here, and I'm gonna add some butter. This is straight out of the refrigerator, so I'm gonna cut it up into smaller pieces. I should have laid some out, but I didn't. We're also gonna make a little bit of gravy to go with this, with the drippings from that chicken fried steak, or cube steak, as my mama would call it. I'm gonna put some salt on these. We'll give them a taste to see how they taste. And I'm gonna use about a fourth of a block of cream cheese. I'm just cooking I'm cooking a smaller amount. Put some black pepper in there. A little taste. Definitely need more salt. I'm gonna add just a little sour cream. Okay, I'm gonna make my gravy now, and I'm heating back up my oil. And over here, let me turn you. I have my rolls, and they look a little funky, but that's okay. Be like Nana. I'm gonna put some butter on the top, and we're gonna put these in the oven. And we're gonna cook these while we're cooking our gravy, and everything will be ready to go. Let's get these on here. And get you back over here. All right. So I have what was left of the drippings from cooking my steak. I'm going to put, this is about 1/4 of a cup of flour. I just want to cook this long enough. I'm going to turn it down. We'll go ahead and turn my peas on. But it is thickening up nicely. Our peas are getting nice and hot. Those are just canned peas. Nostalgia purposes for this video, which I do happen to really like the canned version of those. All right. We'll turn this off. All right, let's fix us a plate. Make a little well for the gravy. Look how pretty these rolls turned out. I'm excited about those. Some English peas and some gravy. Look at that. Doesn't that look good? This is awesome. Okay. Let's give this a taste test. I always like to get a little bit of the peas on my mashed potatoes. Right back to my mama's kitchen. That is so good. Look, a little gravy on the cube steak. Mama would be proud. So let's see how these look. See, this is what I liked about those rolls that Mom could find. You can just pull them apart like that, and I loved that. Well, let's see how they turned out. So good. So good. Here's the cheesecake. You can't see the chocolate because I think it's because I used a 9-inch or a 10-inch pan instead of a 9-inch pan. But it's going to taste great anyway. I'm gonna put a little chocolate on the top, and then I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator and let it get completely cooled, probably 3 or 4 hours, and we'll come back again when we do our taste test. So I have some milk chocolate that I just melted in the microwave. Well, all right. I think that's going to be just beautiful, and I can't wait to dig into it. Look how wonderful that this cheesecake turned out. I'm so excited. Happy birthday to me. I love you guys. Let's give this a taste. Are y'all ready? Mm. My goodness, that's good. I wish Papa would come over and get in the video and taste it. Mm. It's so good. Here, come stand right here.
So good.
That is a really good recipe. It will be in the show notes. I love you guys. Well, we've had a productive day in the kitchen, and it's been an exciting day showing you how my mom would have celebrated my birthday with me. And I just want to say that Nana loves you, and I'm so, so proud of you. And you always have a friend here. See you on the next one.